Welcome back, everyone, to Talk Your Abs Off. I'm your host, Abby Clapper, and today I am joined by one of my dear friends and clients, Jenn Getz. Hi, Jenn. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks.
I'm so glad that you're here with me today, and I'm excited to dive in. So, a little bit of background with Jenn and I is we actually met. I was working in a corporate wellness site, so I was contracted into. My career is a little bit of corporate wellness overall. So I just so happened to be working where Jenn was working and managing that gym. And so I actually met Jenn. She would come down and work out, take my classes. So we have kind of a fun little background. And then once my time there was done, she stuck with me. So I'm excited to dig into her and her story a little bit here. So, Jenn, let's talk about where we initially met, obviously, at the corporate wellness site. And when we kind of started tracking everything and working together, let's just start from the beginning. Tell me a little bit about the start for you.
I came to a realization that I had been trying to achieve certain goals for many years and had never, I kept trying the same thing and getting the same results, which weren't any the results that I was looking for. So I did want to build some muscle mass. I knew it at that stage in my or this stage in my life, it was really important for my overall well-being to establish that, and I just wasn't working for me. And we had really developed, I thought, a strong rapport, and I felt comfortable that we'd be able to. I tried some different platforms in the past or different programs in the past, and nothing worked. So I felt like we'd be able to find something that maybe a bit unique, but would work for me. And that's exactly what I felt like happened. But it was just the timing and really having someone that I was comfortable to work with all coming in sync.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about why you decided to make a change. Kind of what led to that part.
There was, I don't want to say my ultimate self, but there was just a next level that I really wanted to achieve. And that next level to me wasn't a nice to have, it was a must have in order to just achieve my overall well being. And, what I continued to do the same thing and nothing was working. So I just felt like I needed to have some type of outside assistance in order to get there. And I decided I was important enough that I was going to make that investment.
I love that. I love that you came to the place where you made yourself a priority. A lot of times people, won't do that for themselves and will kind of they'll focus on every other external thing around them and really won't take the time to kind of dig deep and think about, what you want to do for you to be the best you. So I love that. I love that you did that. I love that you started doing that. And you also had some health challenges along the way. Can you tell me a little bit about I know they were a little bit different kind of when we were starting out, and we still manage some of those now, but tell me a little bit about when you started, kind of what you were going through.
Sure. A couple of things that I continually struggle with is migraines. And my migraines there's a number of different causes, as all migraine sufferers will be very well aware of. But one of the causes is, my posture and just my muscles in my neck. So that's been an ongoing challenge because as much as being in better physical shape assists with it, it also can, at the same time, when I do certain exercises, aggravate it. So it's kind of a balance. And then another challenge has been with the muscles in my back. I have some muscle issues where same dynamic. Flexibility exercising is very helpful, but at the same time can trigger pain there. So trying to just figure that out.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, in classes there, not just you, there are a lot of people who have a lot of different needs, I'll say, people with injuries, things that need to be accommodated. And that's, one of the biggest things that I advocate for people is making sure that you find someone who will work with what you need. There are a lot of trainers out there that will kind of just brush it off. But I think it's really important to not, in order to not get discouraged, to find what is going to work for you, because there are so many alternatives. And I think, you and I really we worked well. You gave me a lot of really good feedback. We, trial and errored a bunch of different things,
Mhm.
exercises, things that, ways of eating. What would you say were some of like the biggest challenges that you came across when we first started?
Um, the first one was fear. I had, tried this a number of times myself and never been successful. So although I felt like I was making some changes that may change what the outcomes were, still there was no guarantee. Um, and I'd say I knew that the ambiguity. So I knew that different programs that were out there through different services may have a prepackaged plan, but none of those had worked, and I didn't know what would work. So I had to put trust in the process and trust in you that we'd be able to find something that would work for me and produce a different outcome. And we were able, I think, again, really successfully to do that. Part of it was just having very honest conversations, honest with you and honest with myself about to commit to a certain exercise plan that I knew sounded good on paper, but I wasn't going to do, served neither one of us any purpose. So just being honest with those things, and then you're return back to say, well, what can we do, and then being very specific with the action plans that we made. It held me accountable and also made it very clear about what I needed to do, but again, also really realistic and catered to me. Another thing that I found helpful was the tracking of my calories, and not just helpful, but that was a make or break. And you were kind of sneaky, to be very honest, in how you were very sneaky actually. You had originally said do it 2 days a week. And I definitely balked at that in my head, even though I may not have said that out loud, because I just said, I don't want to be micromanaged. I don't want to track. This is not for me, but I'll do it 2 days a week. Um, so I started doing it, and it was very easy, but it was also not easy, but it wasn't nearly the application that you gave to do it through did make it pretty easy. But it was so insightful that okay, I've got to do this. I am somewhat of a data person, but it took away, I mean, it made me very clearly see what my calorie intake was, where there were calories that I found that there were sauces that I was eating that were just as much as the meat that I was using, that I was dipping in the sauces. And it's like, okay, I don't eat the sauces that much. Okay. There were some things I could cut out and just make such huge differences. And that was empowering to me. And I had thought the tracking would be disempowering, and I feel micromanaged. It was all very, very empowering and taking back control. That was really helpful too.
I'm so glad to hear that. I know that tracking works for some people, it doesn't work for others, right? So that's another part of kind of the personalization of it. And that's, when we start tracking, just a couple days a week, which I love that you said I was being sneaky, but truly when people hate tracking, I say, please just try it for 2 days because, and a lot of times people won't end up tracking for every day, kind of like you do, which is okay. Because what it does is it still gives me a good idea of what you're eating, because as people, just as creatures of habit that we are, a lot of people tend to eat the same types of foods during the week just because it's easy, it's leftovers, it's meal plans, things like that. But then on the weekends people don't track, or they quote unquote go off the rails. So I'll usually ask for a weekday and a weekend, or 2 weekdays and a weekend day, just so that I can get a good idea. But for you, I'm so glad that you saw how easy it was to do and that you found it beneficial to really track those foods. And I track some of my foods occasionally as well, just to make sure that I'm on track. And I also measure my food, so that's like another thing. And I think you were doing some of that too. And I'll you and I talked about this, I'll measure my coffee creamer because we can all go ham on some coffee creamer and just dump it in. And all of a sudden we have 200 calories worth of coffee creamer in our coffee. Like you said, with like the salad dressing, same with that. So
Yes.
I'm so glad that it was kind of insightful for you to be able to see what you were putting in your body and the changes that you yourself could make.
Right. It allowed me to make choices to say, okay, well, the salad dressing is 200 calories and this cookie's 200 calories. Which would I prefer?
Right.
And the tracking actually through the app that you recommended is really simple. If it wasn't for that app, the tracking would be a whole different ball game for me. And I've given that suggestion to other people to use that same app. And there's certain things you can do that make it just so much easier too. So it's just it allows you to click and like repeat meals and copy paste and things like that. So it's really super simple once you
Absolutely.
get it down. Yeah.
Yeah. If anyone is curious about the app, I'm happy to talk about it. It's My Fitness Pal, and I think a lot of people maybe have used it in the past, maybe haven't used it. So if anyone has questions about it, I'm happy to answer. It's open for everyone. As far as tracking food goes, there's a lot of different ways that people can track food. Your way was through the MyFitnessPal app, which is awesome. Some people don't like to log their food that way. Some people like to write it down. And then, a calorie isn't necessarily associated with it, but you can still see the foods that you're eating and can still kind of say, okay, if I needed to make any healthy swaps, which you did, and I want to talk about that. So if you need to make healthy swaps, you can look at this piece of paper and then kind of see from there, like, oh, if I were to make a change, what could I substitute? So on the topic of healthy swaps, tell me a little bit about what you did to kind of change the quality of some of the calories that you were taking in.
Well, through the app, and I have no sponsorship to this app, but it also would quickly allow me to organize where the calories are coming from, or my top foods, where the macros are coming from, etc. So one of my top calories, one of my top fat sources, everything was peanut butter. I love peanut butter, and I cannot give up peanut butter. So you had a suggestion of a powder peanut butter supplement that I can use, which sounded completely disgusting. But I said, I really have to evaluate this because what the fat and calorie difference would be is substantial. I could just make this one change and get 500 calories back a day. So I did that. I actually, with that, it was easier to use that peanut butter. It for me was actually healthier because it didn't have the oils in it, the hydrogenated oils, and I saved all those calories. And it didn't taste compared to the peanut butter I was eating. It actually tasted better.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the most awesome, easy switch up.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that powdered peanut butter. I use it in my smoothies, in my oatmeal. It's way cleaner. It's not messy to like try and mix it all in. And it's easier to use. Like you said, lower in fat, just, an easy way to just kind of swap out those calories. So,
That was also something I found is like the hydrogenated oils. So you'll find a lot of that in peanut butter. So being able to take that out because I was eating so much through the peanut butter, I was able to also recognize just how that one ingredient was really not good for my body. So through this process, I've really been able to gain more self-awareness, and I think also um, give myself more credibility to my what I discover and follow that. So I've been able to make changes in my diet that just overall have helped my health as well.
yeah, and you made some pretty significant changes because once you started tracking, it's funny. I remember specifically you said, these are the percentages of macronutrients, so of your proteins, carbs, and fat that I know have worked for my body in the past. And I know that works for me. I know why it works. And so you knew exactly what you had to do. All you needed was that extra tool to make sure that you were on track for that. And we were, you would check in with me every single week and we would, go through everything. You'd show me your percentages. And let's see, what did we all track? We were tracking how many days you were doing exercise, what was your preferred exercise? I know we did group exercise classes, but there's something that you really love doing that you were
The
doing,
treadmill. I love the treadmill.
the treadmill that you were doing, and you were taking the stairs and you were just adding a lot of extra steps in, which made a big difference, and then attending classes. the group classes, which worked really well for you as well. So I think you did a really awesome job of really tweaking your workouts for yourself and your food for yourself. And I think that was just, it was so fun for me to watch you through that journey. Because really you're the one who makes those decisions, right? Like, I am the person that you check in with, but sneaky Abby in the background also is still making you do some of the work to find what you enjoy and what works best for you.
And the tracking really gave me the insight into, I mean, you really kind of helped me see what to look at. But what I found through the tracking were two things. It did absolutely confirm my thoughts that we kept my calories the same, but by changing those macro percentages, which I didn't know what a macro was prior to this, um, but changing that definitely made a difference. And I started to lose weight just from changing that. And then the other piece of it was that we discovered, more recently was the weight training. So I can keep all other activities the same, all calorie, everything else the same. But if I don't do weight training, I will gain weight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that has been kind of a recent discovery that we've kind of noticed now when you were taking classes back at your office. We There was a lot of weight training there, and then
Mhm.
there was kind of a gap as we were trying to figure out kind of what to do. And then recently I'd say even prior to the new year, you were like, all right, Abby, I know that weights are going to make a difference, and you wanted to see some change just even in how your body felt, which is so important. And I will preach on the mountaintops until the day I die how important strength training is. So I was so happy to hear that. And how has that changed, even just recently? How has that changed your body? How's that changed your mood, your energy, anything like that?
Well, what I found was we do a weekly tracking just to put it out there, and it's goals that I set for myself, which I love doing that because it helps me at the very beginning of the week prioritize myself and do intentional time to make intentional decisions about how I'm going to prioritize myself that week. So it just makes me feel good. But through that, I was also able to see one of my goals is to do so many days of strength training a week. And I could see, and also in the tracking, I'll put my weight. So I could see immediately, I have about 2 years of tracking where when I stopped doing the weight training, I started gaining the weight. And there were 2 periods of time that both of those activities occurred concurrently. And my weight training went down, my weight went up. Nothing else changed. So I don't like weight training.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put that out there. It's just not my thing, but it is a quote requirement. So, this week in the podcast, I was, I don't think my story is anything, monumental. And I really, at this point, I've gained weight, I've lost strength, and I'm at a low point. So I've really had some honest conversations with myself about what do I need to do to get back on track and make change. And I realized, every day I brush my teeth. And there's no question if I'm going to brush my teeth. Why don't I treat my body the same?
Mm-hmm.
I know weight training is critical to make my back not hurt and for overall health. It's not a nice to have. It's mandatory. Why do I prioritize wiping off the countertop versus just doing 5 push-ups? I would never say, okay, I've got to wipe off the countertop today so I don't have time to brush my teeth.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't happen. So I need to look at weight training the same way. So for the last 3 days, I have.
I love it. I love it. I like that perspective. I think
One day at a time.
exactly. I think that perspective is so important. It's making it a normal part of your routine, a normal part of your life. And I also want you to give yourself more credit for your story. I know we've talked about this before. Everyone's journey to their health and wellness is so incredibly unique and important. And I guarantee you that there is at least one other person out there who has had the same feelings that you've had, who's gone through the same thought process, who analyzes things the same way that you do. So I just want you to give yourself credit for all the amazing things that you've done in your journey, even though it looks different from other people's. So there's that little side note.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. And I also want to talk about the trial and error process. So and we even still, go through it today. So
Mhm.
when we think about like experiments, right? So like I'm a science person. Kinesiology is a science. I really love experimenting with people and their health and wellness journeys. Like that's why I do what I do. And it's so rewarding to find that thing that that works for someone and that they enjoy doing. So walk me through, was it kind of a roller coaster of trial and error, or did things seem to click pretty seamlessly? How did that feel for you?
I knew that I had a lot of confidence and comfort in you, and our being able to interact almost on a daily basis through the environment that we were in, through we were both at the same corporate building. It gave me a confidence that is, now that we don't have that same interaction, it would definitely be more challenging. So it took me quite at least, I think, 2 to 3 months to see results of really, really trying, being very disciplined. But I can't come to you and say that that was a hard process, because I felt like every day I was making good decisions, and I felt very strong in that and empowered through that. And I almost came to the point that, or I think I did come to the point that even if I don't see any changes, I feel so much better, that it's okay. Luckily, I did start to see all of a sudden. When we made the macro change, everything changed at that point. But even if that hadn't happened, I just felt so much better.
I'm so glad to hear that. And so when Jen and I were working at the office, the program kind of that we were doing was she would come in, we would sit down and kind of just it would just kind of be an accountability chat, kind of a mindset talk, just to recenter, kind of see where she was at. Again, we would do the check-ins. Once I left that office, our system looks a little bit different now. So, like Jen mentioned, she emails me once a week just with all of her accountability items, everything that she, wants to. We want to see if she met the goal, if she didn't meet the goal, and if you don't meet the goal, that's totally okay. But it's good to just know for yourself if we don't see change, or if something doesn't look exactly the same, like we can, kind of look back and see why. And what we also do is once a week, Jen and I will hop on a video call. We'll chat for maybe 5 minutes, kind of talk through, how was the week? How's your mindset? And, really dig into any questions, anything that, might be causing stress or causing a change in schedule, and kind of work through that and move forward through that. And then from there we do 30 minutes of a home workout, with her equipment at her house. Obviously I'm at my house, but that's great about the virtual world post COVID. I love that we're able to do virtual things, so even though it looks different, we're still able to have that same accountability, the same mindset coaching, and the same workouts. So I really love that, even though it does look different. I do miss the office with you, but I am so glad that we were able to continue with what we're doing.
And you really gave that option. You said, we could meet somewhere and work out there together. And that was another, and I almost want to take the accountability word out of it now, because we would get together and talk about what was working, what wasn't working, and kind of be like co-solutioners. I don't know that that's even a word,
Ooh, I really like
but,
that.
I don't think it's a word, but it did feel like we were partners together. And how do we trail success here, or make success happen? So it felt, very empowering and comfortable for me. But also the at home workouts, I identified, getting to the gym is really just challenging for me, because I don't want to go there and work out. So being able to set a stage in my house is helpful, because I can just replicate that when we're not meeting. It made it easier.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also, a lot of times people just don't do it on their own. So that's why even just hopping on a call and having someone tell you what to do, you're going to show up. You're not going to ignore my call. So that
Right.
works for both of us.
And it gets me going. Like, energy motion stays in motion. So I do that, and then I have more propensity to keep that up the rest of the week. And I do try to keep my workout mat and everything right in front of my eyes. But that's what works for me.
Absolutely. I love that. So because we were working together in a corporate space, I I absolutely love the idea of corporate wellness. That's why I was in it for 7, 8 years, and just I'm like so passionate about it, and just want to tell everybody that every corporation that they need to have a fitness center, a wellness professional in their space. So I want to know from your perspective how having a fitness center, how having a wellness professional made a difference in your well-being and in your coworkers' well-being while we were in that space.
Sure. Thanks for asking, because that's something that I feel very passionate about. The I can say the wellness center in the space in a vacuum doesn't make that much difference, because in the building, we recently moved buildings. In the building that we were at before, we both of them, we have wellness spaces. I've never been to the gym in the new building, and I've been there over actually a year now. I've never once been to the gym. So the having the gym coupled with a wellness professional was really, really important. And um, having one I connected to was really important as well. Being able to go to the classes and have everybody get together outside work and laugh and de-stress, it just was awesome. I mean, we built those people. I still see them today. We still say hello. And now we do network and do different things with work too. But it was just such a special dynamic and special time for us. So, and I know a lot of them express the same experiences where they haven't been to our new gym either. So it does, I think, take also something additional to bring you into that. And then the energy breaks that we were doing. So when at what point in life did we decide that recess was just a nice to have?
Mm, yeah.
Where do we get our adult recesses? How does that get restarted? Because that's kind of like what the energy break was. And I know at first we had a tough crowd.
Yeah.
You know, the crowd was like, I've got a call to get on. I've got this to do. And oh, isn't it nice that you can take 15 minutes to throw socks at each other? And, and then people started doing it and realized this is a 10-minute break that gives me easy 2 hours of productivity, because I've taken a break, I've re energized, I've moved my body, and it's actually an investment. And I lose more by not doing this than I do by doing it. It really built up a night, such a strong culture in our team. And we still hold on to that. It's still there, even though we don't have the energy breaks anymore. I dearly miss them, but that togetherness that we built during that time hasn't gone away. So I am very grateful for that.
Oh, and for those who might not have a company that does energy breaks, if you can implement this at your own company, I highly recommend it. It was one of the most fun things that I got to do. There are different departments that would either I would schedule with their departments themselves, or we'd bring a bunch of departments together and we would spend 10, 15 minutes. Okay, like Jen said, throwing socks at each other. We call it a snowball fight, and we would split into two teams, and we'd set a timer, and you'd have 5 minutes, and whoever could get the most socks on the other side of the piece of tape that I put down as our barrier would win. So that was just one thing, having a beach ball with exercises written on it and bouncing this beach ball around, or even just doing simple stretch breaks. I will say it was easier to get people to just do the stretch breaks because they could stay at their desks. But I think we had the most fun when we could come together and kind of play a game, like you said, have a little mini recess in the middle of the day. That was the best part. I mean, I get to just go around and play games with people all day, and then you guys have to go back to work, and I just get to keep playing with people. So that's part of my job.
Yeah, no, we had just a great time with that. And then some of the activities we would do, we would share something, or we'd say something we were grateful for, or and so that really helped us get to know each other better. And I think also just be more comfortable with each other. So
Yes.
it was great.
It truly makes a difference. I was just at a conference over the weekend, and I found, and it would be 30-minute seminar after 30-minute seminar, which I took so much away. Anyone who's listening who was also at that conference knows what I'm talking about. But what I found, and it's so funny because we were sitting in a keynote and watching a keynote speaker, and I was like, gosh, like I am just like exhausted, all this information, I'm tired. I was kind of losing, the track of what the guy was talking about. And I thought, you know, maybe what if like next year or at, a different conference, like we had someone up there on the stage and before anyone started talking, we got moving. We stretched, we had a good time, we met our neighbors and just got the blood flowing because I really truly think that that makes such a huge difference. So whether or not that happens, is up in the air, but I will be stretching or moving my body in some way before I go in to sit into all those seminars and keynotes and things like that. So I think it's important, can be taken into, really any field, but especially in corporate, I feel like it's so needed just to kind of refocus, bring that energy and just, kind of work through the day.
Absolutely.
Anything else that you wanted to touch on that we haven't mentioned? Mm.
The only thing I wanted to that I was thinking about over the last few days is like how how sedentary, like I when I first started working at home during COVID, everybody gained weight. Well, when I started tracking my steps, I was taking less than 2,000 steps a day. So I was talking to a couple of people in the office today, same thing.
Mm.
Um, and it was really insightful to be like, oh shit, I couldn't believe it. So there is power in data. But then I also started thinking, Abby, and I was like, our lives have changed so much in the past 10, 20 years. And of course, power in data, I put this on a spreadsheet. So when I go into the office, I have to get up to go to the bathroom, and I actually tracked it today. Get up to go to the bathroom. I walk out from my car. Do all these different things. I easily get 2,500 extra steps a day going into the office. But then when I add in, and honestly, it's a lot more than that, but I'm keeping it conservative. But then when I add in what happened when we weren't like paperless, like when we had to get up to the copier, when we weren't doing all meetings via Zoom and we'd get up and talk to somebody or walk to a meeting room. So we've easily taken just through office time 5,000 steps out of our day in the past 20 years, 2,500 easy in the past 3 years.
Mm.
Then you add in shopping.
Yep.
So I don't have to go to the store anymore, or I can greatly reduce my trips to the store, right? So then I don't have any of that walking to the car, walking through the store. Easy 2,500 steps. And I'll just say easy 1,000 steps a day if you say you only went to the store twice a week. So when I put on a spreadsheet how many steps we've lost through the last 20 years a day, processed foods are an issue, but we've just, because what have I replaced that with? I've replaced it with sitting on my computer, sitting and watching my TV, sitting with my phone.
Yeah. Moving less. Yeah. Absolutely. And I even think that wearable devices make that even, a little bit easier because they remind us,
Yes.
have you stood up? I can see.
And I don't use that on mine, but when I look and I'm like, oh, shit, I've only had 1,000 steps today.
Yep.
It's like, I am not being very nice to my body,
Yeah.
because that's why we all have these injuries. I hate to say it, but they are, when I've been reading about this back thing, even if mine's not caused from it, it's definitely aggravated by sitting all day
Yep.
and how I keep my neck.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know. I will say, like, on the days when I'm not out and about or the days that I don't work out, my body tells me, like, hey, you're stiff.
Mhm.
You at least need to stretch. Like,
Yeah.
this does not feel good.
Yeah. So I mean, companies are going to keep paying more and more in health insurance costs if they don't do something to start mandating movement.
Mm.
And that probably sounds extreme and crazy, but I 100% believe it.
No, this is the Jen that I like. I like this Jen because I completely agree with you. And if companies, I mean, shoot, I could do just a whole episode just on, corporate wellness alone because I've been in it for so long and have seen the benefits and, the adverse effects of not having it.
Well, they want to do all this stuff on ergonomics. That's great. But if you don't move,
Yep.
there's only so much you can solve for. That's the reality.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And, like I tell my clients too, stretching is considered movement for your day, So if you can't get a workout in and you can still stretch,
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
all, that I can
Yep.
ask of someone because that is
Yep.
enough. That is plenty. So, um, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I think, companies that have fitness centers, companies that offer health and wellness stipends for employees to have a personal trainer, a gym membership, access to different apps, fitness apps, things that are paid for by the company absolutely can help the employee, can help the amount of work that they're getting done, the quality of work that they're getting done, and also obviously plays a part into, the cost of health insurance for both the companies and the employee. So just to nerd out a little
Absolutely.
bit on all that corporate stuff.
And you can only do so much to get people to go to the workout classes. And I think it also comes, I mean, I'm not the only person that speaks from data, but going in and saying that, per this data, employees are more productive after a break of this, or people are more productive, you are actually getting a return
Mhm.
on this.
Yeah.
You may spend X amount, but your return is this amount.
Hmm.
And there has to be data out there that supports it, because just if we were to do an experiment right now and say I'm going to sit all day versus I'm going to take a break, and how productive will I be afterwards, there'd be no question.
Oh, absolutely. I think we covered a lot here, Jen. I think that this is
Okay.
fantastic. And the last part of my show is kind of like a little fun a little fun break. It's not adult recess, but it's still kind of a fun
Okay.
way to end the show. So it's called absolution. So this is something in your mind that you might think is toxic in the fitness industry, something that we should maybe absolve ourselves of as we move forward this year with our fitness goals. So what do you think, Jen?
I would say that the mentality that this is optional or nice to have, we should mandate to ourselves. We owe it to ourselves to, just like we brush our teeth, to have movement, to stretch, and and not look at ourselves, or look at others that are taking care of, that are doing these exercises, whatnot, as that's a luxury and a nice to have, but as a just a fundamental um, right that we owe ourselves.
Mm, yeah, I think that that's a really good one, and I think it is so important. And I like that you make it so like that it is mandatory. It is something that we have to do. And I think that that's unfortunately or fortunately, one of the ways that we have to look at it in order to get it done. Some people they do enjoy it, and for some people who don't, kind of need that kick in the pants. Like, yeah, let's just do it, and find a way that we can enjoy it so that we can get it done.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I don't enjoy brushing my teeth. I do it every day. I don't enjoy weight training, and now I'm starting to do it every day.
I love it so much, Jen. Well, Jen, thank you so much for your time, and thank you all for joining us today. If you have any questions about this episode, I would love to chat with you a little bit more. You can find me on Facebook. I'm Abby Clapper. On Instagram, Coach Abby Clapper. I'm also on YouTube and on LinkedIn. If you're a corporate girly or guy and want to connect there, we could do that as well. So thank you again, Jen, so much for your time. And if you're interested in also hearing more about what it looks like to work with me in a way that Jen is also working with me, I'd love to chat with you, and we can find out what works best for you. So with that, I will see you all on the next episode.